Well, I'm here with Cory Grant and Richie Fusco, the writer, director, and the star of Screams from the Tower. I really enjoyed this movie quite a bit. It was reminded me a lot of going to high school myself. I know in the show notes it said you were going for like a John Hughes feel, but this felt like it had Cory Grant fingerprints all over it, much more than the John Hughes. But yeah, just kind of take me through both of your the two of you coming together and coming up with this thing because this movie was a great amount of fun.
Oh, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. I say it's a John Hughes homage because I grew up where John Hughes shot all his, brilliant coming of age movies in the North Burbs of Chicago, in Ferris Bueller Land, in Home Alone Land, Breakfast Club. And to me, those are still the best coming of age movies, available and still resonate so much to me. But I wanted to kind of push it further and kind of imagine if John Hughes had two gay central characters closeted, as it were, because it's the 90s, at the head of his movie, and also try to take kind of that feel of a John Hughes movie and telegraph it and talk to the current generation in high school now, and then also just bask in the glory of like archaic 90s technology and as I've said before, like this current generation seems to love the 90s right now. I hear it in the music, I see it in their clothes, and they all are much sexier than I ever was. My god. So hopefully it appeals to them. It has so far, and I've been really thrilled with the response. Yeah, it was the needle to thread.
Right. Richie, what brought you into this? Because you were fantastic as Julian in this.
Thank you, my man. Right away, I think the script was just so much fun the first time that I read it. It was so cool. It was so bizarre and quirky. I love that it was just honestly a story that really just delved in to focus on these two characters and their relationship and just the craziness of high school and going ins and outs of, just juggling all these different things that you have when you're in high school, trying to figure out who you are yourself, what you want to do with your life, who your friends are going to be. So I think just like right away, I knew this film was going to be so much fun to just kind of play around with. Everybody involved was so incredibly collaborative, and they were inviting all this sort of creative energy. So we just had an absolute blast filming it, and I think from top to bottom, it was just a pretty enjoyable experience.
Yeah, and also besides being funny and fun, I gotta say towards the end got a little dusty there, and with Julian's character, there was more than a little bit about his OCD. Was Cory? Was that something you've had to deal with, or because it seemed real? That bit of Julian's life seemed really deeply personal with the amount of details you
Oh,
got in there.
yeah, thank you. It was important to me. Well, first of all, it's the whole movie is a love letter to my best friend of what 35 years now or something. I met my best friend when we were 8 years old, and we were two really weird kids, doing theater together, and had no other friends, throughout junior high and high school, and so his battles with OCD that slowly kind of crept into his life from, I'd say, 10 years old, that he kind of deals with even today, were more interesting to me than his coming out and his sexuality. So I really wanted to highlight the complexity of that, talk about how that manifested in terms of how he dealt with his friends and dealt with school, and and I think Richie does such a phenomenal job, such a delicate job of talking about it, and highlighting it without it ever being too heavy-handed, I think. So it's personal to me because I watched my friend have to start to, at some point I started watching him like close his front door to his house when I would like pick him up with my mom to go to a movie 6 times. And it just seemed like something that had to be said. At one point, to make the movie shorter, we tried to cut the OCD out of the movie. and just make it about Julian's character coming out and his sexuality, but it didn't work. It's his OCD that's actually, I think, the more interesting battle in the movie that he has to face.
I would agree, Cory, just to chime in real quick. One thing that I love about Julian is, like, obviously he's kind of grappling with this sexuality and, coming to realize his queerness. But, like, honestly, it seems like his, like, biggest battle at the moment would be the OCD thing. And I love that that's more of, like, where his mind's at. Like, even though both Julien and Cary are gay, like, they have, like, other issues that are honestly to them even, like, bigger issues at the current moment, at least. And I think that was cool that just, like, this was just something about these characters, but it wasn't the whole reason behind these characters.
Yeah, there was also that scene where Julian's like, I got something to tell you. And it's like, what, you're coming out? We already know. It's
No,
like,
exactly. And I've had that exact same conversation with friends before, where, people will come out to me and I'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. What else? Is that it? What are we gonna have for lunch today? You know what I mean? We're just like, I know, like, let's talk about it. Of course we could talk about it, but, like, that doesn't change anything. Like, I'm here for you as a human being and everything that entails.
I think the biggest problem with Julian is these two right here. Their relationship. That's his and whether it's going to fall apart or come back together, or like how it's going to morph after high school. That seems to be, at least to me, that seems to be the most important thing between the characters.
Yeah, without giving away too much about the movie, I love how open the ending is, and how this relationship we've as an audience invested in the whole time. If leave the movie caring about these two and wondering what happens to them next, then we've done our job, And luckily, we had Richie and David Bloom so beautifully weave that for us, because when those two boys leave and one goes off to college at the end, to me it's like a total heartbreak. And I even making the film, writing the film, until we got on set that day to shoot that scene, I wasn't expecting it to have the gravity it does, but it seems to just rock an audience, much to my joy and surprise.
What's the writing process like for this? Because obviously there's a personal angle, but you got some very strange characters in this, and I loved watching all of them.
Thank you. What's weird is, like, they're all based on real people, and I remember someone saying, like, well, how broad are these characters? And I had never really, like, thought of them as being anything but totally authentic, like, and based in reality, because I mean, high school's bizarre enough, that, like, at least for me, like, everybody I went to high school with remains these, like, bold characters in my life. I think the way we shoot the adults in the film just makes them look like monsters, because that's what they felt like back then. And I went to, like, a high school of 4,000 kids. So we had every kind of race and culture and religion and physical ability, neurodivergent person, surrounding us at all times and part of our student body. So I just tried to cram as much of them into this movie, which I had then had to cut down to be under 2 hours, because I'm not making, like, Gone with the Wind here. I think my favorite part about making the movie, writing the movie, is the characters. And that's just kind of how I approach, writing. Like, I want to write movies and make movies that actors want to be in, that they want to perform, and that DPs want to shoot, and that everybody feels excited to be there and make. It's a hard ass job,
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you guys got going on after this? Because I kind of hope you guys work together. You two seem to like each other, so maybe you think the same thing.
Oh my God.
Maybe
work
with the side eye toward Richie, any Star Wars in the future, perhaps?
Oh, I mean, hey, that's always forefront of the bucket list. I don't know. I think, honestly, my key into acting is, like, I do honestly credit, like, Star Wars to kind of getting me into acting, as far as, like, the dreaming and the big imagination, these characters that are larger than life, the boldness. And that's, I think, what got me started into all of it. I obviously still love it to this day. And I mean, I would love to work with Cory Grant again. I mean, we had nothing but a good time on set. It was just insanely collaborative. We were laughing the whole time. it felt like we were back, like we were all a class in high school again. And I feel like if we were achieving that while we're shooting and we're all having a good time, that's got to resonate through the screen. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but, I mean, the whole reason I brought that up though is I saw you wrote and directed and starred in Balance of the Force, a Star Wars story. Where can I find that?
Yeah, man, totally. So, I mean, what's kind of crazy about that is, honestly, that came from me getting out of college and wanting to obviously act. And it was honestly a COVID passion project. I wrote to Lucasfilm, and I was like, I would love to do some sort of just like a fan film as like a little homage to something that kind of got me started through all this, especially during COVID. Like it was 2020 when there was nothing going on and we were all trapped indoors. So I wrote to them, corresponded with them a couple times, sending back and forth script ideas that didn't violate any IP property or anything like that. Got a green light from an executive, and I just thought, you know what I mean? Like, this is just like a fun little passion project. I brought in a bunch of friends from NYU, a bunch of friends that I met out in California, and it was always just for fun. You know what I mean? They greenlit it. They allowed us to screen it on Hollywood Boulevard, and it was kind of sweet. It was kind of just like a little fun passion project for myself.
Like a dollar baby, but instead of Stephen King, it's Lucasfilm.
Yeah, yeah. Exactly.
Nice. Well, this debuts at Dances with Films on December 7th. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're having our East Coast premiere in New York City, where Richie went to school, and I've lived for 27 years, dear God. And we are part of Dances with Films New York, which is a total thrill, and get to show our movie in this massive theater where Richie and I both, have been seeing Star Wars and everything since for like the last 15 years. Yeah, it's just a total delight to get to go to like a movie theater you frequent and see, your work and see Richie's face like 30 feet high. I'm so glad his family is going to come see that because my God, it's just such a treat. I hope Screams from the Tower just becomes a total cult classic, and that, kids want to wear t-shirts and buy Richie as a bobblehead, drink out of his head on a mug,
God,
I want toys.
That's
Toys
horrifying.
Richie.
That's horrifying.
Well, send me Richie's head. I'll drink from it.
Perfect. Will do.
I'll just end with this. Get a movie recommendation from the both of you. This should be like a movie that's you think is really good, but no one ever talks about.
Oh, I mean, oh my God, no one ever talks about. Well, right now I have a 9-year-old son, and I'm like taking him back through my childhood and seeing what clicks with him. So right now we're deep into the Goonies, man. And for those who haven't seen the Goonies, it is the finest of like coming of age movies. It's so brilliantly shot and acted. The editing is insane. The music is mind blowing. And if you haven't checked out the Goonies in a while, my God, like, how did they do it? Richard Donner's a genius. Spielberg produced, great movie.
It's all magic.
Yeah, that is a great movie. Cory, I'm actually like in a Goonies phase right now too. It's actually on my watch list to sort of revisit. I don't know what. I feel like the world just kind of needs more of that. The young group, the young gang, going off on like a true classic adventure story. I feel like I'm kind of in the mood for that too. So it's funny you brought that up. I'm trying to think. I don't know. What would I recommend? What have I seen that people aren't talking about that's kind of in the shadows? I don't know. I'll just, off the top of my head, my favorite movie is Birdman, 2014 Best Picture winner.
Oh, love it.
It's literally combines. It's one of the most flawless movies I've ever seen, and I draw constant inspiration from that. And I think that's just kind of a movie that, quite literally, it keeps going the whole time. It keeps moving the whole time, and I feel like I just kind of always look to those performances almost as like a North Star for me. So definitely go back and check that one out.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining me, and congratulations on the movie. Hope everyone has as much fun with it as I did, and as you guys had
Thanks,
making it, I
Eric.
suppose.
Sweet, thanks.